You're now listening to Unfiltered with Mia, where filters fade and real connection begin. Each week, I sit down with inspiring guests, all share solo reflection for raw and honest conversation about growth, challenges, and the wins that shape us. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we have a new guest on board. We have Coach Jamie with us today. Coach Jamie, I would like to call you your not typical coach, because that was my first instinct when I heard about you. But it's not in a bad way. It's actually in a good way, I promise. So obviously, in today's episode, we'll get to know you a little bit more. Obviously, you're new to Dubai as well. But brand new, like baby new.
Literally a month old.
And obviously your whole journey into fitness and health. So how are you doing?
All good. We're still settling in, me and Soph. We've been here for just over a month, but it's very different to the UK, put it that way. We're still getting used to how friendly people are. If I'm honest with you, like being over here, especially when you're born and raised in the UK, like still getting used to how much people want you to succeed in a different environment. Yeah. It's beautiful. Like it really is. It wasn't what we expected at all, to be fair.
Happy with your choice so far?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So let's dive into, obviously, I want to know, obviously we know you're a coach, but you've had your own journey. So I want to tackle it a little bit and understand a little bit more about you, your early years, your journey. What led you into fitness?
Well, I'm 33 now, but basically up to the age of like 19, so I'm from Croydon in the UK. And up to the age of 19, never exercised in my life. I literally just gamed. I was a bit of a recluse, never went outside. Okay. I think I started hanging around with kids my age at the age of like 15.
Really?
I just randomly, up to that point, gamer 24/7, never went outside, had biscuits for breakfast. Like I was, your typical English lad. And then 19, I literally just woke up one day, I went, I'm sick of this. And then just transformed overnight. Like literally I went to my first change, I actually went straight to, so MMA now is quite big, like UFC and that. Like I was born in 92. At the age of 19, whatever year that was, MMA was still unknown. Like no one really knew. It's like an aggressive meathead thing that no one knew about. And I just randomly found an MMA gym at the age of 19. Bear in mind at that point, never done any exercise, was very shy, and somehow got the courage to go to a gym. Went in there and thought this will make me a man kind of thing. Okay. And then nearly had my ear ripped off, but somehow fell in love with it.
Jeez,
and then,
right.
So it's a bit of a weird thing. But the thing is, where I had such an upbringing of just gaming, I didn't really know anything. Obviously at 19, you think you do, and I didn't. Yeah. I was a mechanic at that point as well. And so I was told very early on by one of the coaches, oh, when you're hungry, you're burning fat. And obviously at this point in my life, I didn't know, but I have quite strong ADHD tendencies. So I took that very literally. I thought, oh, I'll just stop eating then. So I went from 117 kilos at my biggest to I think 77 kilos in like 2.5 months.
Wow. That weight, two and a half months.
I just literally got obsessed. I thought, well, if I'm hungry, I'm burning fat, so I'll just ignore it.
Damn,
and where I was a HGV diesel mechanic working on trucks. So I was every day doing about 10, 15,000 steps, lifting heavy machinery. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm just going to lose weight really quickly. But then obviously, just to say this now, I actually cover this in detail in like a recorded video in one of our memberships, but I learned the hard way that I actually went from one extreme to the other very quickly. And I got very good at like jujitsu because of gaming. I loved Olympic wrestling. I didn't really enjoy stand-up. I've never been like an aggressive person. It was more, I thought I had to be aggressive, like the whole stigma of toxic masculinity, right? Agree. And then, so that went through. I did that for about 2 years in total, but I kept dipping out to weight training. And I realized very quickly, I had a lot of personal stuff going on in my life as well. I was almost playing the fake man, the aggressive man that doesn't exist. Okay. And then out of nowhere, like long story short, I got actually neuron diagnosed with stage 1 anorexia, but from a mental standpoint, because I went from being that overweight to really skinny, but with loose skin, like skinny fat.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I went through there, was still loved the gym. And I always say to people, it's quite interesting because I was a mechanic all the time. I didn't really enjoy my job. I got very good at it. I've always been that person where if you're doing something, you do it properly.
Yeah.
Don't mess around. So I got very good at it. I went through the ranks as a mechanic, was fixing things that the more senior fitters couldn't do. And then it got to the point where I was like, but I only got sacked twice for going to the gym during work hours because there was a gym on site and like, just a basic gym. And I used to spend like my hour lunch break, I'd be in there for an hour and 10 or an hour and 20 and all those sort of things.
Okay.
And there was a couple of times I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this job when I just want to train? And I was listening to a podcast every day. I was like self-studying.
Yeah.
I literally would work 12 hours, go home and go listen to a podcast. And I was like, there was that wake up moment of this is more my heart. Like, this is what I feel like I'm being gravitated towards. And basically, I went on holiday one day, got really badly sunburned because back then, even though I'm not exactly the most tan person, but I used to burn really easily. So I had a lot of health issues I weren't aware of. And because of that, when I was on holiday, I literally just sat and read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book.
Okay.
And it literally changed my life overnight. I came back and was like, I'm changing careers. And within, I think at that point, I would say within 4 months, I did like a PT course, thought I knew what I was doing. Because anyone that does a PT course, you realize very quickly that you can pay in the UK like $3,000 and you can qualify in a month. Yeah. And technically on paper, you're now able to help people. And it is probably one of the most, I don't know how to say this legally, you're told what to tick and what to say to pass an exam.
Yeah.
And that's it. And like you almost have that. I paid the most expensive one I could find, thinking it'd be the best course. They're all exactly the same. Like if anyone asks me now, like, and I get asked it all the time with clients that I mentor, like if you wanted to be a PT, what would you do? I was like, find the cheapest course to get qualified, and that is that is now a license to learn. So you do further education on, right? So I did that, become a PT, quit my job on the spot. I was in a mortgage back then and stuff as well.
Okay.
I had a little boy, my eldest boy at that time as well. And I was quite reckless. I just quit my job and I just took a leap of faith. And I was very fortunate. So while I was studying, I was shadowing someone in Canary Wharf in London. I had a very good opportunity to shadow him. And I volunteered at a gym twice a week as well. Okay. During my workout, after my work hours. And I did podcasting on the side. Okay. As in like lists, like studying constantly. So when I did qualify, I was recruited very quickly into a gym. I was offered an office manager role because of how I handled myself, even though I was like, I've literally just qualified, but I refused it because I'd never work for someone again. And then I got recruited into Canary Wharf within a month. And it was really, like looking back now, it's really good because Canary Wharf taught me what stress does to the body. Yeah. And obviously at that point, I was very much like, oh, it's just calories, macros, you need to burn some calories, all these sort of things. But then when you're thrown in, that was my very first mentor at the time, like I said, and he introduced me to like the old school Charles Poliquin methods, gut health, what stress does, and all these things. I was like, this isn't taught on a PT course. True. And like insulin resistance, I was like, what is this stuff? But back then, because of the reason I mentioned my health trauma, being obese and then going down to neuron anorexia, not knowing at the time, I basically had completely ripped my gut apart because chronic undereating can do that. Living a processed diet up to the age of 19 would have done that. And without even knowing, my body was broken. I didn't even know. And that almost obsessive personality of training all the time, although I was doing all the things that you should be doing, it was teaching me unknowingly at the time that you can do whatever you want with all the basics. If your body isn't healthy, your journey will either be 10 times harder or you won't be able to do it all together. And it isn't just as simple as calories and macros. And I was learning that without even realizing it. And then when he started teaching me gut health, it just almost, it felt like something clicked, and I had a bit of epiphany going, there's way more to this. Yeah. And back then, again, without knowing it, I had mold poisoning. I lived in a moldy flat. I had SIBO without knowing. I had serious gut damage. I then fast forward a few years because my journey is quite long. It's like 10 years. I then I left Canary Wharf after a year. I didn't like how things were like corporate based. I was like, nah, there's like people are being treated like numbers a little bit. And I was like, no, like people are people and they have stories.
Absolutely.
So I left it, started my own business, went straight into a bodybuilding gym in Croydon, a really famous gym in Croydon called King's Gym. I still love it.
I know it.
Yeah, oh dear. Yeah. So the original, like they call it the Mecca, the original one, where they first started. I was very fortunate to meet James Hollingshead before he was even a pro bodybuilder. He's now pretty famous. He's known as The Shed. And he literally, I met him walking in and he welcomed me. And to this day, he's one of the friendliest bodybuilders I've ever met. And within a few months of being there, they allowed me to rent a space in there and have an office.
Okay.
So I was a PT in there with an office. And I know it sounds silly, but I had so many health issues that I couldn't diagnose myself. And that back then I knew nothing about bloods or DNA, all the stuff I do now. And I was self-taught. So I started realizing that gluten was not okay. It would set me off, set loads of things off. I realized that dairy I was very sensitive to, whey proteins. Then I started realizing FODMAPs and then gums and nut milks. Like I was literally self-teaching, just where I was so ill without realizing and my body was so hypersensitive. I just really dove into it. And then when I would work with people and see, like, one person thought he had asthma and he was told all his life he had asthma.
Yeah.
And then when I was working with him and his name was Grant, I was like, you have granola every day. Like granola has like fiber base in it and this whole thing that fiber is always good for everyone. And I was like, I have a feeling you react to some of the starches in it because you're quite bloated and that would lead me to think there's some like resistant starch issues, all that sort of things, right? Different thing going on, obviously granola and other things he was eating. So I pretty much stripped his diet back and was like, right, let's try some white rice porridge, like rice flakes. Let's try white rice in general. Let's just take the fiber and starch load down a bit and see how you respond. Lost 2 kilos in a week. And for the first time in his life, he didn't have asthma symptoms.
Wow.
And I was like, I literally sat there, and this is like one of those, like, obviously I know now, but back then I was like, I don't even know what I just did. But that is seriously interesting.
Of course.
And this is like a 45-year-old man, policeman. All his life, he's got used to spitting phlegm up because apparently it's a rare form of asthma, his doctor said. And I was like, no, it's not. And then literally he was able to lunge in the winter, and literally you could see it in his face. He was so blown away, and he lost like 1.5 kilos. Within like 1.5 kilos, then 2 kilos. And I was like, I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. And without any backup, and back then gluten-free was a bit of a fad, whereas now it's obviously a bit more accepted. So I was, and I'll be honest with you, back then I looked like I needed PT. Like I've got 2 big videos. It's over an hour in total of my history. You'll see it in those pictures of me in like green pants and stuff. I'm not proud of sharing those, but I kind of like to be raw about it because I'm like, I look like I need a PT. Yeah. Back then I was doing 5-6 days a week training. I was doing 3 45-minute cardio sessions a week. I was saunering twice a week, and I still looked out of shape and like I needed a PT. You would never like, and obviously body dysmorphia led from that as well. And so I was that guy in the middle of a bodybuilding gym that looked like that, having clients have photo shoots. I had one client win the British finals for a bikini competition in terms of like the amateur one in the 2-bro league. I had other clients that could never place, doing 2 weeks of me on my setup, and then like Penny, for example, and then place 4th. Like she couldn't even place before, and then she got 4th. And I was like, I've got all this like credibility coming, but I still look like I need a PT myself. So the amount of like, I'll be honest with you, I call it what it is, insecure bodybuilders that were like, almost like, well, I've got this business. Why is this guy looks like this earning more money or doing this? And I had a lot of heat. Like it was almost insane. Like my office in King's become a thing where I get so used to hearing people slagging me off. And it was like, this is the bodybuilding world though. It's a very, maybe not anymore, but when I was in it, it's just like anything. Obviously there was a bit of a spiritual part of my journey later on as well. People have suits of armor and they're heavily insecure. Their whole life is how do I look when I do a front lat spread, or how do I look? How many people want to have sex with me? Like that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely.
And then when you break that ego, they fall apart. And it's like, and that's why when people look at bodybuilders and that as like, oh, we're immensely healthy in this, that, and the other. They're actually not. Don't get it wrong. You can be, but 80 to 90% of it back then wasn't. Like I said, James Holland said, introduced me to the body, like to that gym, and he was freaking amazing. Whereas all the other guys that wanted to be or up and coming, they were like it's a very selfish sport and a very selfish, insecure mindset. So fast forward through there, my business was doing really well. I was still struggling to the point where some of my PT clients that I was PTing for over a year straight, got a really good relationship with them. One of them literally knew me so well. So I didn't know at the time, but I developed H. pylori, which is obviously quite dangerous if that's left unchecked. And it's quite common as well. And I started having really weird symptoms flaring up every now and then. And I didn't know for about a month. And his name was Darpan. And we would have PT sessions. And he was like, you're having a flare, aren't you? And I was like, I was never one of my clients to feel like they weren't getting for it, because I wasn't the cheapest PT either. I was like, I don't want to. And he was like, don't be silly. And he'd literally train and let me sit and watch him while I'm training, like trying to stay awake because I was in pain. Like my chest, like I thought it was my chest. My chest was hurting. And that's how like I built such good relationships. But my clients got so used to me being sick all the time, it was almost the norm.
Of course.
One of them I used to train at 6:30 in the morning. Her name was Kay, and she'd be like, "How's Jamie feeling this morning?" But it wasn't like a dicky thing. They knew my worth and what I could bring, but it was like they just knew their coach was always ill, and it got really weird. And then COVID then hit, and by that point, I'd probably invested about 20 grand, and I was in a lot of debt, hiring all the best doctors. I won't say any of their names, but they really are the best doctors, probably the most famous still. And I just got conned. Like they would do a blood test that would cost me like $1,000 for their, like to have a consult with one of them was like $900 because he's from America. Yeah. To get his blood test that he wanted, to get it sent to the UK, centrifuge, sent back, and have a call with him. It was like $900 off the bat, and then another $400 charge. And every time I had a question was $250. And I got a 10 grand loan out to hire him because I trusted it. And then plus the supplements. And do you know, to this day, like so I have two actual coaching packages. One of them is called a consultation package. I actually have built it based on that experience. So although it's a consultation package, you actually get put in a group community and you can still speak to me every Wednesday night as long as you make the time to attend the call because it's a group call. You also get discounted calls. So like, for example, paying $250 every time I had a question was mental.
Of course.
And I was
definitely.
Like, and then he had the nerve to increase his rate and just say it's just 50 quid extra. And I'm like, but that's what I mean. But it's like people invest into you, and I get it's a business and the function of it isn't cheap. But there's also that like you're dealing with people that are chronically sick.
Absolutely.
And these people, when they're sick, they're desperate. They'll go get a loan. And I literally was in trouble. I barely could pay my mortgage for all this stuff. But yeah, fast forward into like say COVID days. I was still just as bad. And I think I was on like my 9th mentor, 10th. I literally was hiring the best anatomy experts because I could never look how I wanted to look. I never gave up. My mindset's always been rather than trying to read the book, because I struggle to take written information in, always have, probably an ADHD trait. I've gone, well, I'll pay the person that wrote the book and I'll just teach me one-to-one. And every mentor I've had has been one-to-one. I would never do a group program. Never, I don't believe in it. As in like from a mentoring perspective. And up to that point, I had 2 of the best, even today, they're still quite, well, one of them definitely is, probably the best anatomy teaching coaches in the UK. I had, like I said, 2 functional doctors, the guy in Canary Wharf, a few others that I trialed, didn't really like from Australia. Like I said, I just kept trying new things and it's almost like, what can they teach me and how can I make that into my own merged version and keep growing my own business and learning while I'm also doing my own research. And then when it hit COVID, I hired another, as a bodybuilding doctor who's very famous now. And he basically did a very basic test that no one ever told me what to do, which was a mycotoxin panel. And my ochratoxin load, for those that don't know, the mycotoxins are mold toxins. So like candida, mold, all the same things, but they're different types. My ochratoxin load was like, so on the scale on the label on the report, 20 was really maximum high. And ochratoxin like eats away at your kidneys. And mine was 73.
Wow.
Yeah. And at that point, and I cannot stress this enough, and I'm very open about this stuff. So conventional medicine in the UK, NHS, stuff like that. At this point in my life, before COVID, I had gone to every GP that I had in my area, my local, to the point where they near on banned me from going back because I kept wasting their time. They kept telling me everything's normal. You're being paranoid because I was in the bodybuilding world. You're just trying to chase perfection. One of my worst symptoms was I got in the shower one day and obviously not knowing this at the time, but the temperature change from being cold in the UK in the winter to being hot in the shower, it felt like I was being stung alive by bees, like literally being stung alive. Like my whole body felt like I was being stabbed. So I collapsed in the shower crying. And and I was like, I can't, even in the bodybuilding gym. So I got used to being freezing all the time and like the winter, because I trained in a warehouse. I wouldn't put a hoodie on because the minute my body would get too hot in a hoodie, my body literally I'd be like mid-row and it would like cause dry skin and cracked skin. So one time I was rowing, I think I got to like 70 kilo plate loaded row, and where I had straps on, I gripped so hard and I was closing my eyes while I was rowing. I had it was a histamine release, but I didn't know at the time. And all like down my spine felt like I was being stabbed. And back then I was like, you're just gonna get through it, ignore it. So I kept going. And then all of a sudden I could feel water running down my arm, look down where my skin was so cracked, it bled. And it had all run down my arm into my hoodie. And I was like, even if I ignore it, I'm in pain anyway. And then I ran into the toilet thinking I need to take my hoodie off because it's really hurting. Took it off. Literally one guy walked in and looked at me and I was like, is there anything on my back? He went, no, what are you talking about? And I was completely fine. I thought I'd have like rash, nothing. You couldn't even see the pain I was in. It was so weird. So looking back now, for those that don't know, mast cells that are in our skin's tissue, they can be triggered by extreme heat or extreme cold. So that's why it was.
You kept being triggered.
Yeah. So if I went hot to cold too quickly, if I gradually got warm, I was fine. But if it's too hot or too, like if I was really hot and then got cold, like cold therapy would do the same. But obviously I didn't know this back then because it wasn't a thing back then. But yeah, so that was one example. And then ochratoxin was found. I also had H. pylori. It nearly killed me as well because I kept ignoring those pains that I said with Darpan. So I've skipped over that quite a bit. And where I was still dieting and trying to get lean and have abs, basically I developed, I think it was a total of 2 ulcers and it nearly killed me. I was ignoring the pain for so long. I collapsed on a Stairmaster, got taken to hospital. And yeah, I literally was on the verge of, and the doctors just went, oh, you've got ulcers, you need PPIs as they always do and stuff, right? Those sort of things. And it was actually my mentor at the time. I went, tell them to check for H. pylori. And I remember the doctor, this is a doctor in the hospital in Croydon, went, that's a good idea. Someone's been doing their research. And I was like, what?
So you didn't know that was your job?
Yeah, and I looked at him and I was like, and I said to him, so why didn't you suggest it? And he went, oh, it's not something we normally check for. And I was like, but you just said it was a good idea. And I was quite argumentative back then. I had a chip on my shoulder, I'll be honest. And anyway, they looked and I had serious levels of H. pylori. I had a positive test. And I was like, so this thing had been eating away at my lining. And then anyway, but they just gave me antibiotics as they do. And my mentor at the time, who was a bit of a bodybuilding coach, but also quite a holistic health. So he was the first time I'd experienced both worlds, right? And I then did his protocol along with that. And my H. pylori was gone within a month because I took it very seriously. And then when I went back and got cleared, even the person that then, like the camera down the throat.
Yeah. And
they did another stool test, all that stuff. And they were like, how did you eradicate that so quickly? That's rare. And I was like, because I didn't listen to you guys. I did what my functional health coach said. And he went, oh, functional health, and rolled his eyes. And I was like, you just literally said to me,
it's gone.
It's so ignorant. And
exactly.
You just like, yes. And that's just conventional medicine. It's just a huge factor of it. If it's not proven by medication, it's ignored. Anyway. And then, like I said, back in COVID days, I got fed up, found about this ochratoxin thing. We had so this is with a previous partner with my kids, or my one child at the time. And yeah, we moved into a new home. And like I said, my business was doing really well. It was during COVID. And I ran probably the most intense supplement regime I've ever run in my life. Mm-hmm. And again, this is no disrespect to the person that guided me through it, hence why I won't say his name, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have technically overcome it. But it was about 450 quid a month in supplements. It was it was so restrictive that I was only allowed to eat quinoa and turkey every day. Yeah. But that wasn't his fault. It was basically, I had got so paranoid with food choices. Well, it wasn't even paranoid. It was true. I just got obsessed with it, that I actually found that quinoa, turkey, avocado oil, and lettuce, I believe, and some oregano were the only foods I could eat that I 100% knew didn't react to me. And a reaction could be anything from that skin issue.
Yeah.
To one time I took a probiotic and I thought someone poured acid on my face. It burnt and like a lupus rash across my butterfly rash. Another one was chronic, but almost bipolar personality switches. Because histamine can really drive being aggravated. So I was like, I could only eat these foods. I genuinely ate nothing but those foods for 16 weeks. And that included during COVID. Actually, my son's birthday, I remember having a slice of his cake that was homemade during COVID. And my son was born 2017, so whatever age you would have been. And I felt guilty and threw it in the bin. And I was like, it shows what he's doing to my mental state. And I will be honest though, at the end of the 16 weeks, and I remember this time to this point, anyone that scrolls down long enough my Instagram page, don't judge me if you see my content back then though, you'll see that I literally put a fake tan on in my front room because I was supposed to have a photo shoot. I'll never forget, it's like, obviously now I'm quite spiritual, but back then I was very like meathead life. Thinking so, where that was working so well and COVID was coming into the world, lockdown was being threatened, I'd booked a photo shoot and it was literally 2 weeks away. And I was like, this whole COVID thing's getting more serious. They're not going to lock us down. They're not going to do that to us. I went from like 98, 99 kilos of being swollen or whatever I was down to I think my lightest were like 81.5.
Oh, wow.
And I looked skinny, but I was, for the first time in my life.
How long?
That would have been over the 16 weeks. And I literally looked very lean, but I looked drawn, obviously, looking back now, but I lost a lot of muscle mass from doing that, but I looked very lean. And then good old Boris Johnson, the guy back then in the UK that ran it all. I didn't watch the news, so I didn't even know this was coming.
The last one, the one before Christmas.
No, the very first lockdown this is.
Oh, yeah, right.
He announced it. So my shoot, whatever day lockdown happened, my shoot was 2 days after.
Oh,
So
yeah.
after that would have been, that was genuinely like 9-10 years of wanting to always be lean enough to be accepted in the bodybuilding world.
That must have crushed you mentally.
It absolutely destroyed me. So that happened. I had a full-on breakdown, and obviously all my clients had breakdowns because obviously back then being a physique coach, obviously I wasn't as aware as what I am now. Everyone's life was the gym that I was coaching.
No, I had a mental breakdown. I was like, you can't take that away from me.
Exactly. And again, just my point. This is why, like, my message now, to skip a little bit here, is you can't be happy. You can fight on me all you want. I don't care who you are. If you can't look in the mirror with pride and take your shirt off in front of your partner and feel sexy, if you can't function every day without brain fog, gut issues, IBS, skin issues, reactions, and if you're not genuinely living a life that you can look in the mirror and go, it may not be what I want, but I'm going in the right direction and be proud of it. If you can't, so basically internally, externally through your shell, and mentally and emotionally, if you're not genuinely happy in those three areas, you're not healthy. And I will always stand by that. So that means everyone needs to learn their body, resistance train, cardiovascular be fit, learn anatomy as well. Like, so many people think like, oh, well, your lats are as a bodybuilder, and think, no, it's not. Like, it's so powerful. Like one of our, sorry, my partner's in the corner. One of our clients, and honestly, I rate her to this day. She's actually one of my longest clients' mum, Belinda. She's 64, never gone to the gym in her life, was an ex-vegetarian. We've sort of introduced more animal-based foods on that. And she now weight trains in a full-on bodybuilding gym.
Wow.
3 times a week. And,
that's so nice.
And I've only coached her since when did I start coaching Belinda? Would have been about August, whatever. So last year. And she only was with me on my one-to-one for 3 months, and then she dropped down to the membership. But in 3 months, we went from her being on chronic, and I mean chronic, joint medication for over 10 years because of all the issues. She couldn't run. She looks after horses, has a farm, not a farm, but like a horse thing in the UK. And now she's a 64-year-old woman, weight training 3 times a week, running again, no medication whatsoever.
I love that.
But it's just a random example. But when someone says, oh, I'm too old, I can't weight train. I've had loads of and again, I'm not being a douchebag here, but holistic healers that, oh, well, let's look at a supplement you could take. How can nature heal you? I was like, but this person doesn't even know how to go exercise properly. Like, you're not going to out supplement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's where all that sort of comes from. But obviously going back to the mold thing in COVID, where was I actually?
You were at the point of right after COVID, like COVID happened.
Oh, then the photo shoot. Sorry, yeah. So that happened. I had a full-on mental breakdown, and I mean, like, someone in the universe hates me. Like, I actually just did that, but still whacked a fake tan on just to see the result. Did it, and for the first time in my life, I showed myself shirtless on social media. At that point, I ran a business on social media. Never did I show myself shirtless. I was so embarrassed. I felt like a fraud 24/7 because I was coaching bikini athletes getting insulted in the bodybuilder 24/7. And again, I had some lovely clients that, although their coach didn't look that way, they didn't care because they could see what I brought. But obviously, I couldn't see it for myself. And I finally did it, like, showed myself shirtless, and mate, like, it really was a big turning point for me. Fast forward through lockdown, business grew really well. And this is quite a deep twist to my story. I then had, again, with my ex-wife, I then had twins, Debbie and Leah, during lockdown, my little ladies. I freaking love those two. I love all my children, obviously. But yeah, a man and his daughters is different.
It's like when I understand, like, at the end of the day, a girl is always daddy's girl.
Well, it's one of those things, like, so you go a little bit thing here, but see, Logan, my oldest, he's named after Wolverine because I used to love Marvel and I'm a massive child. Logan could fall over, but Logan, you're good. Come on. It's obviously back then I was a bit different, but now I'd be very emotional with him, but still be like, nope, this is true masculinity. You're down, it's good, but you cry about it, but you get up. Like,
Yeah.
that. Whereas if Demi and Leah fall over, I'm like, oh my Lord, who hurt my child? I'd punch the concrete. Or if they ever fight, I'm like, I don't know which one to defend, because I'm like,
just make peace.
I was
both
like,
of you.
I can't choose a side here. But yeah, that they were born. And this is, again, I talk about this quite openly. And just to say this for anyone that is listening to this, I think it's so important to, if you're going to listen to someone, if you're going to hire me, listen to me, be in my free community, or even go on my Instagram, I don't care. If you can't relate to that person, you're always going to struggle. One, actually being able to be open-minded to make a change and listen to their input.
Yeah.
Two, respect. If respect's not there, you're not going to get it. And I do believe that I went through all my health trauma, and there's actually more coming in this story, a lot more. That I truly believe now, after all the spiritual work I've done, I'm actually someone that has quite empathetic abilities. That is a healer. I think if you know, like, I'm quite a geek with like my RPG games like Skyrim and stuff. I would be a mage. I would be a healer if I was on a game. Yeah, not I'd want to be the warrior, but I can't freaking fight it. I am a healer. But no, so I do genuinely believe it. And when I tell my story, my head goes, if that was me in any of these cases in my life, and I'm only like halfway through my journey at this point, what would I have needed to hear?
Yeah.
It's not that this person's the savior and the hero, but who could inspire me to look inwards and go, this person can hold my hand and I'd let them.
Yeah.
And it's not that person's ego is driving it. It's that person's gone, I've been there. I'm not going to call you dramatic, but I'm going to help you get out of it. But at the same time, you're going to do this journey. I'm your guide. So I will take you to the door. I will smash your head against it, but you've got to open it and walk through it. I'm going to take you there, but you still need to make that journey for yourself. It's the same with being a parent to a kid, about being patronizing. So at this point in my life, I then, I literally did a video on this the other day, and it made me tear up when I was recording it, wasn't it? So I then I finally got in shape to have a photo shoot. My girls were on the verge of being born, but they had to be C-sections. So we have really rare twins. Demi and Leah are identical. They shared the same placenta, which apparently is very rare. But we were told at that time from conventional medicine, still didn't learn by this point, that they were high risk. At some point, Leah would disappear or Demi could absorb her or something like that. So we had constant fear that was going on, like literally scans every week. And they were born and all that stuff. But basically, before them, I finally, lockdown had lifted, and I then had my photo shoot, because obviously I was in shape. And had the photo shoot, had the fake tan, was oiled up in the gym that I trained at. It wasn't King's anymore because I moved away to a different place called Biggin Hill. And I remember to this day, because my ex-wife was obviously being looked after for babies and stuff, and I was obviously in a prep, which was, looking back now, incredibly selfish of me to do, which is how desperate I was. And I got home, looked in the mirror and went, I look incredible. So why is my life still pretty shit? Like, why do I still look in the mirror and go, I don't want to be here? And genuinely, 2 weeks later, my girls, I think like 2 weeks later, whenever it was, my girls were then born. They were born, dealing with twins, newborns, not fun.
a lot of hours.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And I will be honest with you, my ex doesn't mind talking about. We have a great relationship now. She's even gets on with my partner Soph now very well. We weren't meant to be. We kind of got met very young. Like you have to do life together, get a mortgage, all that stuff, right? And we had kids. And I wasn't happy. She probably wasn't either. And if it wasn't for my son, he obviously doesn't know this, and I hope he never watches this until he's older, I was about to jump out of a 3-story window and I heard him underneath, so I didn't. And I genuinely nearly did it. And then 2 more attempts I did take in probably a space of a month. And I realized very quickly that I looked amazing. But again, going back to that analogy of internal, external, and mental and emotional.
Yeah, I agree.
So externally, amazing. I looked great. Internally, I knew, so I was scared to come off my protocol. It was breaking my finances. If I ever stopped any of those supplements or had something else other than quinoa, I would put 2 kilos on, expand, and get loads of symptoms come back. So although I looked great and I could put it on Instagram and help my business, I felt like a fraud. I was like, this isn't what I stand for. And I had enough. And it was that whole, anyone that's been at that point in their life, and I'm sure you'll all relate to this, it's that feeling of you just want the noise in your head to stop. Like you're a fraud. This isn't real. If you break this there, you're selfish.
Absolutely.
Driving, obviously kids being born. Like I had Demi and Leah needing to be fed with a histamine response that was causing it to sting in the back of my head. And I was like, I can't give them the energy they need. And I was depressed. And and that happened. Me and her did actually decide to split. obviously very early on. It just was not okay. And I then left the bodybuilding world, and this was actually a massive point in my personal journey and business journey, because that's where I found functional health. So I left the doctor that was helping me doing that protocol, and I was like, well, this clearly works, but I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like this is
not for the long term.
It's not sustainable. And although I've now managed the symptom and he's guided me through it, I now want to know what you know, but without being disrespectful, I want to do it properly. Not as in he wasn't doing it properly, but there was no empathy. It was very much, I remember saying to him once, I can't keep eating quinoa. Why? What's the issue? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's the issue? Yeah. Like he didn't have any, it was like motions of a rock. So I then actually went and found another mentor in Australia. And from here, all my education's been on from Australia, but obviously I've never been there at the moment anyway. And I went straight into his institute. It was like just a line. He was literally starting a business where he used to be a physique coach, went full on functional health, started learning blood work. And I think he gave me, I'll never forget this. His name's Jake Carter. Like it's now called the Institute of Health, but back then it was the Carter Institute. And mate, I connected with him almost immediately. And I believe it was a very small community back then. Now it's massive. I'm not a part of it anymore, but I still will happily sing its praises. And I think within 8 weeks, I got so obsessed with like blood work that every time I had a call, so it was Australian times, I'd like stay up and stuff for it. They were like 3 hours long. He gave me permission, I don't know why he did, but he did, to record it. And what I used to do is watch every recording back, because I could listen to things on ×2, take notes, and I was building a spreadsheet on bloods every day.
Wow, right.
Every time I heard Jake say something and whatever blood test he was analysing, I gave like blood test assessments to my clients for free because I wanted to learn it. So I literally every week I had at least 6 or 7 blood tests to watch back over and repeat. And I did that for 8 weeks straight, and asking him questions, being mentored by him and doing his community. And with 8 weeks, he gave me permission to read bloods under his name. And I was like, it was a proper nice thing for me. I was like, someone's finally seen like value.
Yeah, of course.
So I was in that institute for 2 years and I completely left, and he did guide me on a spiritual path. So at that point in my life, a kid from Croydon is taught that like, if you're aggressive and you're scary and you've got a temper, you're a man. Yeah. Toxic masculinity at its finest, but it's just, again, it's more upbringing and environment.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And Jake put me more on a spiritual path. I won't say any more than that because it's his business. So I went through the spiritual world. Let's just leave it at that. I left the bodybuilding world, and it made me, that's when I started realizing how much the bodybuilding was a shell. It wasn't real. It was insecurities, right? But then I went the other way, went full holistic health, and then neglected physique.
Yeah.
And then I got a lot more spiritually and mentally in a better place. But keep fast forwarding through this, I then learned the opposite lesson. And then what was really, really beautiful is I never used those photo shoot pictures because I was like, I'm a fraud. That's not what I stand for. So even to this day, well, last year, still wouldn't use them. I was like, no, I'll just use my physique now because I'm still in good shape, all that stuff. And then long story short, I met Soph last year and I closed the chapter. And there's a whole video on this in my community. And I closed the chapter again. I then had another very stressful year of my life, which is some of it's still going on now. But when, again, it was just that whole chapter of learning from those experiences. But to this point, to answer, I now have a different mentor and all that sort of stuff. But the goal of this was I never gave up, no matter how much was thrown at me. Every negative experience would break me. I'd have breakdowns, mental breakdowns, but there was always a lesson at the end of it.
Yeah.
And if you ask me what I do for a living now, I have to call myself a health and physique coach because God knows what else I can call myself. But the way I look at this is I'm just a guy that never gave up. And I've never worked with a person, and I've, even to this day, never worked with a person where I've not experienced at least one of their symptoms. And it's one of those things where I'm like, again, if you can relate and be empathetic to someone, you can connect and guide with them. But at the same time, you have a right to call them on their shit. So if someone's like, oh no, this is like, no, you had a McDonald's yesterday, own that. But it's not to make you feel worse, but be aware. Awareness is the first stage of healing.
Absolutely, I agree.
You know? And I always find the more I tell my story to someone, the more they feel comfortable to share those with me. And then when you have that connection, whether it's one-to-one, whatever, that person then builds rapport with you and you learn that person. Every person is unique. You can have the same issue, whether it's PCOS, SIBO, mold exposure, autoimmunities. You could have the exact same issue as someone else, but your unique journey to that point in your life is always going to be different. And your ways of dealing with it might be 60% similar, but we have to also remember that you're a unique. So you might be more stressed than that other person, which means that stress could stop your healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
See my point? So you have to, and again, it doesn't matter how much you know, as you know, like my 10-year journey of being a PT in that, it didn't change how I healed. I needed the right information, you know?
Yeah.
It's like anyone, you can drive for 20 years, doesn't make you a Formula One driver.
Absolutely.
See my point? I don't know how much time we've got, so I don't want to keep going.
No, that's fine. I'm just inspired by your journey. I'm just like, wow, he's been through it all. But like you said, you kept going, which is really nice, because a lot of people would have gave up a long time ago. Like there was many times in your chapter where you were able to be like, you know what? Yeah, okay, bye. See you done. I'm done. But you kept going. What kept you going?
Honestly?
Yeah.
First of all, it would have been insecurities. So so without being too deep here, my actual father left my mum when I was 2. My stepdad wasn't abusive or anything like that, but he wasn't nice. He left when I was 15. He left with my auntie. And all I ever saw was people leave and give up. And my mum was always put through hell. And I don't know, like I said, I told at the age of 19, you flick me, I'd cry. I was the biggest sop. I was.
What gave you that little wake-up call?
You want to be honest? So that MMA one was actually watching a film called Never Back Down. It's like the only MMA film that ever existed.
Yeah.
I remember watching it and going, it's such a crap film. But back then I was like, I want to be able to do that. And then I just...
That's it. That was the flip.
If I'm on, no, that was the flip for me to go and try something new, and for some reason not be like, for a kid that you could flick and cry to walk into an MMA gym. I don't actually, to this day, I don't know how I did that. Like that's like a kid being immense, and I was bullied quite badly as well. A kid being immensely bullied to then suddenly go, now I'm going to walk into a gym where I'm purposely going to get punched in the face. Right. I still to this day don't know. Like looking back now, like I don't know what drove it. I think it was desperation that I don't know. I think I was sick of being me. And I don't know what led it. All I know is I literally woke up every day and I didn't want to care about my latest level on a Final Fantasy game and Skyrim game and be that my life anymore. And even to this day, I have to be careful because, like I said, having ADHD and it's managed so well now. If I didn't have ADHD, and that's another topic in itself that I've really, really mastered for myself. But if I didn't have ADHD, I wouldn't be so good at reading a blood test. I can read a blood test and like I could probably look at 80% of the problems that you have no idea because all those normal ranges aren't showing it. But I can look at it and go, well, you've clearly got overgrowths. But even though you see my point, but that's an ADHD trait. But an ADHD can also cause like chronic procrastination, depression if you don't manage it well.
Yeah, I agree.
You see my point? There's always different ways, but again, there's loads of things here. And like without being too thingy, that point was the end of lockdown. That was how many years ago? There's still a bit more like hypnotherapy I've done, spiritual work, but it was never like if I don't get, it was more like I don't see the point in struggling if you can always try something else.
Okay.
And it was always that I don't want to, like the reason I nearly took my life was because I don't want to be here anymore. Whereas now, like I will be honest with you, for example, I've now got 4 little ones, and if I can leave a legacy and like to end my little story on this, because again, it'll probably go on next time, but I have an analogy that one of my mentors taught me called Brendo from New Zealand, and he's awesome, Brendan Foley. He taught me the lighthouse analogy, and it's probably what I try and remind myself of as much as I can, is in a world where people are tugboats and they're constantly tugging every boat, making it dock where they think it should dock, just choose to be a lighthouse. Stand there, shine bright, and if people follow you, great. If they don't, wish them on their way.
I love that.
So just the more you shine and just be you grounded in a place that doesn't have to move, no wave will move you. You just be you. People will find you, you know, and that's like manifestation, that's work, that's energy. But again, for me, I see my lighthouse as being hit by every freaking tsunami it could have been hit by, but it's still standing there shining with my 4 kids seagulls flying around my head and Soph docked on the land with me.
I love it. I love it.
So that's how I kind of look at it.
Right. So obviously, guys, anyone listening, this is just part 1. I'm just letting you guys know.
I did warn that this was
we did already plan that there will be more to this conversation because there's a lot of depth in you. Obviously, we've seen it in just this first episode, how much there is so much layers that we can talk about. And I love talking about them because I think awareness is, just like you said, is very important. If we can raise, exactly, if you can raise that awareness, then we're on the good path. Quickly, before I have a bit of a closing tradition for the first episode, which I'll tell you, there's nothing to worry about, I promise. However, there is something that I would quickly like to touch on is all of these problems you were going through was also activating stress and anxiety. And I think people don't understand that stress and anxiety and all of that is one of the biggest factor to your health.
Yes. You mind if I do a little plug here? It's
Go on.
a free one. So my latest video I've recorded, and Soph is smiling at this. So my latest video I recorded is 55 minutes long. And obviously I can talk for days. Anyone that works with me will learn. I host calls every Wednesday and I can talk over the 90-minute easily. But so I actually have living proof of this. So last year was a very difficult year. I don't go into detail on the video, and I wouldn't anyway. But I learned very hard what forcing the wrong environment in your world can do. Mm-hmm. And I actually recorded so it's from December December that year. Yeah. To November last year. Mm-hmm. And I record it and I actually prove it with blood work as well. So it's not Jamie just talking about spiritual crap. Bear in mind all my knowledge up to that point. So that was up to COVID and yeah, all that stuff, all my client testimonials and all that stuff, right? So I know what I'm doing. And you'll see what I look like back then in December. I let myself go. But there's a saying in functional medicine that you cannot heal in fight or flight. Mm. And people hear anxiety and hear stress and go, well, I'm not stressed out. And I was like, stress isn't just you want to go punch a hole in the wall.
Yeah. It's subconscious.
Yes. So for example, if you're bloated, you're stressed. If you've got IBS, you're stressed. If you've got irritable bowel syndrome, if you've got PCOS, if you've got H. pylori, if you live in a moldy, damp flat, you're stressed. And it's not that you are stressed, your body is stressed. So the best way to understand it is the human nervous system isn't a dimmer switch. It is on or off. You're either in rest and digest. So right now, me and you are in stress, fight or flight. We're talking, we're getting passionate, we're hearing it. And rest and digest is sitting there going, diaphragm breathing, everything's active, relaxed. Yeah, you're now in rest and digest. So if I was looking at my phone right now, automatically just knock my nervous system to fight or flight without even knowing it, because it's dopamine driven.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So when someone says, "Oh, I'm not stressed," I was like, stress is one of the most vague terms you can say.
Yeah.
And I will be honest, anyone says they're not stressed is stressed.
I love that.
And you have to remember when you knock from fight or flight to from rest and digest to fight or flight, regardless of your emotion to it, your body will not release digestive enzymes. It won't release stomach acid. The vagal tone is switched off. You put yourself into a fight or flight, so your heart rate's higher. Even if you're having fun playing a game, you're still in fight or flight. Yeah. You don't realize that happiness. So I believe the butterfly feeling when you fall in love and you get that butterfly feeling, that's actually a cortisol stress response. That's your adrenals kicking in.
Really?
Because this person's threatening your normal and going, oh, this is exciting, but your body's like, or when someone says like, oh, you got an exam at the end of this and your heart goes.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, see my point?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're eating a meal there, you could argue that you're not going to digest most of it. And this is why it's like, it's so much more to this than just, oh, I'm stressed, so I need to go do this and do that. And it goes the same with anyone. Like people self-diagnose. Oh, I've got SIBO. So they go take all the antimicrobials in the world. But then you realize the nervous system's stressed out from a blood sugar issue or a genetic issue, hence why I look into DNA, or a stomach acid issue. So when that stress thing comes in, we have to appreciate that if the body and the human being is stressed, and that is internal, emotional. We work directly with a hypnotherapist, and I rate her to this day. Like she's saved my life in many ways. So I have one very quick little snippet of an example of how powerful childhood trauma is. So I've always struggled with procrastination. I've always struggled with actually being able to do what I say I'm going to do. Once the dopamine high goes, I'll get bored. Yeah, very common thing. And no matter what I do, it's never good enough. I always believe that for myself. Yeah. Now, my first ever hypnotherapy session with Ray, R-A-E, her name is, she's absolutely awesome. We did it. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd done a lot of alternative medicine up to that point, so I was quite aware of the holistic world. She took me through a hypnosis state, and you're not hypnosis like under control. And this is all on Zoom, so it was not like in person. And I went back to a memory of when I was probably about 9 years old, 8 years old. And I love drawing, absolutely love drawing. And I drew a picture of Crash Bandicoot, which anyone of my age would know that was like the game of the world was Crash Bandicoot when I was a kid. And in school, I was so shy. They made me stand up to the point where I shook and cried because I was so like timid back then. To show it to the school, everyone like clapped me like it was like, oh my God, like, I'm actually cool for a minute. Went home, showed it, and a very close member of family, and it's no one's fault, she just didn't think. She critiqued it, but quite harshly.
Yeah.
My stepdad at the time, that was a douche, he didn't. And so, but what this taught 8-9-year-old Jamie, and this is what we found in hypnotherapy, was no matter how much people will clap you, no matter when you get out your comfort zone and you take a leap and you want to be like, you've done something proud, there's always going to be someone. And at that point, the person was really close to me.
Of course.
Just all she did was critique it, but that hit an 8-year-old's heart or whatever age it was, right? But this is what people don't realize. When someone says childhood trauma, it's not a fad. My nervous system up to the age that was unlocked at like 31, right? My nervous system from 8 to 31 was always subconsciously locked on no matter how good you are, there's always something that's wrong.
Yeah.
So my nervous system couldn't accept that I was doing okay, right? When we unpack that, I would say 50% of my ADHD symptoms disappeared overnight. It was a 3-hour session. I cried so much, I like marked my face. It was mental. And it's like, and that sounds silly, but again, about being fit, a guy that's done MMA, can handle myself. I'm very strong in the gym, can deadlift 160 kilos, crying over a picture of a drawing.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you because I've done hypnotherapy as well. And it brings you to memories of your past that you thought you forgot.
Yeah.
And that...
Or they just cross in memory every now and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I did mine, one of them, I was like, I didn't even recall it. That's how intense it was. I thought I was lying. When I got out of hypnosis, I was like, I don't even remember that. Am I lying to you? She's like, no, if it came to your subconscious means it was a distinct memory, but you've
blocked it for a reason.
You've blocked it, exactly. So that goes, I agree with you that hypnotherapy is something so important.
And I've done, like, no disrespect to anyone listening to this, I don't want to cause any offense here, but I'm quite blunt about how I deliver things, that's what I'm saying. Talking therapy, every other therapy, nah, I'm sorry. You talk to me for an hour and I feel like I'm on a clock, and then you're just I can't WhatsApp you because it's not in support hours. I can't. Whereas Ray, I will happily say now, she went over an hour once for me. We have a really good relationship now. I can WhatsApp her, I can do it. Not that you abuse that, but and again, I always say she has an unconventional approach to therapy and I have an unconventional approach so I can't even label what I do anymore. I'm just someone that could genuinely change your life from all three of those areas if you are on board with it. And I say, I'm not conventional. You see me jump on a group call. Like, this is the most dressed up I've been on camera in a while. Like, I'll be in a vest. I'll swear. I'm a kid from Croydon. But I always say if it's the person's journey and how they can help you that matters. Not always, obviously their skill set matters, but you could be the most knowledgeable person in the room. If you can't connect with people, you don't know how to deal with real people and you can't empathize with them. If you're going to be another person that knows everything, but calls them dramatic, you're not going to help them. And I do believe all that trauma work, all those different types of it, like you just said there, like the reason you want to hear me on a podcast because you've gone through that.
Yeah.
The sad thing about life, and me and So spoke about this, it goes for relationships, life, friendships. The more trauma you go through, and that means things that you've messed up on as well, the more lessons you've learned, what's been done to you, the better person you become.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's quite sad because like, it means you've gone through a lot, but like I believe that I'm a really good partner to Soph, and I can say that with confidence, but so she to me because of what we've been through, the mistakes we've made, and we've gone, I'm not doing that to the next person or this person, but also that happened to me before and I'm not having that from my next person. It goes both ways. You know, no one's perfect, but we're on a lesson of learning, you know? So, yeah.
So I love that. And we will definitely tackle in the part 2 a bit more about the gut health and everything.
Yes.
Before I close the episode, I have to go for my tradition.
Go on.
It's normally there's 2 parts to it, but because there will be a part 2 and also a part 3, I
Probably
will keep
part 4.
I'll keep the suspense, guys. But we'll do a rapid fire question.
Okay.
All right, very quick, and then we'll close today's episode.
Watch me answer this in about 20 minutes. No joking.
You have less than 2 minutes.
Okay. It's a warm up. Go for it.
One word your body taught you.
One word my body taught me. That's not one word.
2 words.
Oh my God, I can't even think of one specific, like one phrase, because my head goes patience, kindness,
That's fine.
resilience.
Love it. Just
Yeah.
that's why they're rapid fire. Just whatever comes
Yeah.
first. Morning routine or evening wind down?
Oh, depends what. Depends what your goal. If you're struggling with mental
No,
health.
for you.
Oh, for me. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's for you.
Oh, morning.
Okay.
I'm a cold therapy person. If I
Okay.
can do that, I'm great.
One habit you'll never compromise on. Again, you. All of them was you. Personal.
Paying attention to what you put in your mouth.
Okay. Something you used to believe about health that you don't anymore.
My God, that's like 50 answers at once. That you can the gym will save you if you don't save yourself.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Gym alone or with people?
The right people.
Okay. Silence or music?
Oh, that's hard. Music can be a bandage, hence why I've got a tattoo about music.
Yeah.
But music can also be your best friend if you know how to use it well. So music, ideally.
Okay. What grounds you when life feels heavy?
At being here now, and I couldn't do this in the UK, so it's a very new thing. Walking to the beach, putting your feet in the ocean and just staring out to the sea and trying to keep focus while everything else is moving like the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So you teach your nervous system to be in your line, not wherever else goes.
One word to describe your journey?
Oh my God. Emotional, I suppose. Learning. Everything was a learning curve.
Okay. My last, because you're my first guest and I do that to all my first guests,
Yeah.
is if you could give one advice to your younger self, what would it be?
This made me cry. I've done this in hypnotherapy all the time. You're a very special little man. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And what your gut feeling says is right, no matter what that person you've given credibility to tells you.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jamie.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the part 1.
And whoever gets to the end of this hour just listening to me waffle, like I commend you, because this is nothing. My clients will laugh and go, this is like an average day on Jamie's life. But yeah, but no, I appreciate it.
No, we'll have many more episodes, guys, because I have so much more question and topics to dissect with Jamie here today. But thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And looking forward for the next one.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.